Hey everybody, Ace of Trades here. Um, so I just sat down at the chart, got here sitting down late today. So I think what I'm gonna try today is to kind of just keep a video going, but pause it, and so it doesn't get real long. But throughout the day I'll start and stop. At least maybe I'll try it for a couple hours here and see how this goes, and just kind of talk you through what I'm seeing. Um, so far this morning. If you would have come in, what time is this over here? 9:40. So here would have been our overnight low. Here would have been our overnight high. And I probably would have drawn something like this to start. And so you would get this overshoot. Um, and so now you would want to be aware of potentially prices fading back up into the range, the overnight range, off this overshoot of this channel. And then what happens is it fails miserably to get back up into the range and just goes down. And then what you have here then, so with that reversal being, uh, pretty clearly rejected, you have this downtrend here, okay? That you would have, all right? And then you get this first leg down, makes a new low, second leg down. Seeing that live, if I had seen that live, I can't say for sure. I wasn't here, so I can't say for sure if I would have taken that lower high. But this seems like you have this downtrend, and then you have this break. It fails to get back past this trend line, pushes down, pushes up, and gets another lower high below the EMA there. I don't know if I'd have taken that or not. Um, that's the only thing I see really right now so far. Um, and with this continuing to move down now, we could expand this, and that, sometimes you're not always going to get this, but you have this touches here, 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 and sometimes, these channels are developing. You don't know that this is going to be like the bottom of a channel, but sometimes over time, as you're watching price action, it fits. So we'll just kind of leave that there for now. Um, and again, we've had another, basically, if we do this, we've had basically in a roundabout fashion, had one leg back, and a second leg back. Now I don't see any way to get in on that because this green bar here is the signal bar. This is an inside bar. And then you'd be trying to short right into the EMA. So what I'll be doing is kind of watching this. This looks like this whole big downtrend is now fitting. And so we can kind of play this as a structure as well. And even in the interim, if you get like within this structure, if you get a smaller structure that gives you a setup to go short, you could probably take that as well. So I'm going to pause it here, and if something comes up, I'll restart the video, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys, I'll just pick it up here because there was I'm not exactly sure where we left off, but I remember I went over this, and then we had this moving down, and then I had this bigger channel drawn. It was fitting off here, and then it fits off here. And then what's happened since then, I missed this trade here, which is a shame because there's a huge runner you can get off it. Um, so you have this channel, and then you get these two legs breaking the channel, and sometimes you have to be able to see through these weeds here, or just be patient anyway. So what you would have seen if you're watching it very closely, and this is again what some of these traders that do these like post-session reviews with a static chart that's already finished, um, you would have been seeing this and possibly been thinking about taking that there, but you're down here pretty low, and that's not, there's a you'd have to be careful here because there is a, you know, let's just do that. Oops. I think I clicked the side of the, I'm just trying to show you what you would have seen. So this doesn't go very far. This is, you can see two micro legs in there, but this is too stacked to me. It's not separated enough to try to want to take a trade off. So you would have seen that, and then you get this static. Once this pushes down, and then you start getting like that, that much of a push, then what I'm looking at is I'm looking at this whole thing, this whole like sideways staticky kind of stuff. I'm looking at was one leg, and so I'll copy that, paste that there, and this is still not very good for. It's not a very good signal. Would like something a little bit better than that, depending on what you went for. If you were, you could have possibly, if that finished better with a better bearish close on it, you have, this is now you're looking here based on the scale of the screen here. You've got 2, 4, 5 points to the EMA. So you've got plenty of room to take something here. This is probably about 3 points of risk. So if you want to go 1-to-1 there, you could, I could do that. You can see as it approaches the CMA, it does bounce again. And at this point, what I'm looking at, because we see when we first pushed down here, we hit resistance here. We approached it, we resisted again, we hit it again, bounced off of it strongly. So what I'm looking at here now as prices gets into this area, I'm looking at this as like an area of resistance, and also understanding that this channel, this big channel now is breaking. Okay, so what happens after you get a channel break is you usually get a retest of the low. Um, Sometimes the hard part of that is timing it. Okay, so um, now once you get this here, right, you've got two legs up into a measured move level. You've got, this is tried to go higher one time, it's tried to go higher a second time, and it's failed. And you're right back into the resistance here, and you've got some room, a little bit of room here to the EMA. This is probably like 3 points. To me, this is worth risking with you understanding that you've got a two-legged break off this downtrend. This move is now played. Even this leg here is now played out with two tries higher, and now you're gonna potentially, it could end up hitting this EMA and bouncing sideways for a little bit and ends up, but this is worth to me trying to take a runner here. If this had, I would have even thought about a short here. If this had pushed up a little higher and not closed so close to the EMA, would have thought about a short on this particular entry also. And then what happens is the bottom just falls out, and you can take this and take off a core position for a little bit, and then just manage a runner. And I would have probably, as this drops down here and makes a new low, I probably would at least pull my thing back down here to like 50%, because sometimes off a move you can expect a 50% correction. And sometimes when you get a new low off a channel break, prices will try to reverse out of there. Now this is super, super bearish today, so chances are it there's more momentum here to the downside. And then I probably would have put it here and just kind of watched it and managed it. What I would have done is looked for, after you get this leg down. Oh, sorry, wrong tool. Actually, we could use this. No, actually, I think that'd be, can't use that. So if we measure this leg down before you get this green, big green bounce, okay? We measure this. And you could do something like this to manage your runner and say, okay, and I'll even show you. Sometimes when I'm trying to trade to measured moves, I will usually, in fact, I had changed this, but I will usually go for like 75 to 80% of the measured moves. So I would probably have thrown my target after this happened. I would probably have thrown my target down right in here and taken this off for, what is this? So this is about 69.25. This is about 55, so a 30-point runner, and just been satisfied with that. Um, but you can see that over time it just keeps pushing down. What becomes difficult then is managing this. It becomes difficult managing, like, how far do I move my stop down? Where do I push my target to? Um, and so yeah, so you miss out on whatever. So it bounced here. Where are we at? So you just never know where the thing is going to decide to stop bouncing. This could be, um, here we are over into current price action. So then, um, you have to be careful, because once you get, some once you get into new low territory for a big trend, it's sometimes now you're looking at bigger price structure, and it becomes difficult to kind of figure out about your trades, because you're into this territory where this big downtrend has made a break and a new low. What you could do is, overall for the day, so anytime you're going to get a new low, at some point the thing is going to at least relief rally. Now, oh, come on. What I would probably do here, I'm going to show you. So I have this as my first move. Now, I've talked about before, when you get a big trend down, and this could happen in like consecutive bars that just very clearly are, like in a leg, or you get this bigger trend. Now, if you went to like a higher time frame, I don't know what that might be, 10,000 ticks or something like that. This whole thing might just look like consecutive red bars down, kind of like this is on this time frame. So when you get a big trend down and you get two equal legs breaking that, very often price will try to make a measured move for that whole trend. And you see we got a significant portion of that. We got about maybe 70, I would guess like 65, 70% of that. Probably. There's 61. You probably got about 70% of that move you were able to capture. So, well, I would say you were able to capture, but price, went down. And this is probably, look, this trend right now appears to be playing out. You have a break of this trend. I look at this whole thing as like all one trend. Some people might draw it steeper, um, and say, well, this is a break in a new high, and that's true. I mean, on a smaller picture, you have this as a trend, break, new high, and then you can see here it tries to reverse, um, and this channel breaks and attempts to make a new low. But on an even bigger picture, this whole thing up is a leg. This is a break. This is an attempt at a new high. Here's a second leg. This is an attempt at a new high. Now, on a day like today, where it's super bearish, I'm not very inclined to take this as a long attempt making a second leg at a new high, um, just because this just might fail on you because it is bearish. This big measured move is still in play, and I could see prices attempting to hit this um, later today. Um, and there's sometimes you can find secondary channels off these also. So like maybe you have something, I don't know, like this. Is there something here? You just don't know until you start drawing structures, and if they fit, leave them. If they don't, delete them. So I don't know. I was looking at something here, but you might have to. Sometimes you have to. Usually, if it's a downtrend, I'll try to trade it. I'll draw it off the top, Sometimes that doesn't work because it doesn't fit real well. And sometimes you can draw those off the bottom and get them to fit. How does that look? So if we looked at that and we put this on here like this, how does that look? That's interesting. And so you have this downtrend. And usually, what happens also is price can't sustain moving this steeply for very long. So you'll get these shallower trends and it'll get even more shallow until it finds a place. And usually, before it truly reverses, you'll get some sort of range. And on something that's this big, that range could just take like hours to play out before it starts trying to reverse. But so here you have this one, break, new low, but then sometimes you could see this as a shallower trend. And this isn't, you couldn't trade. These big trends though, they're very difficult to take trades off of. They're more for like context. So you're not getting yourself stuck on the wrong side of a trade. Like you wouldn't know because you wouldn't know this is a part of a trend line. Um, because we couldn't even draw this until we had this touching this. And so it kind of fits, but it's not the greatest because a healthy trend will typically bounce back and forth between um, one side of the trend line to the other. And the larger your trend line is, the larger that's going to take to play out because of just the time frame. Um, so anyway, I just thought I'd make a little update here on what's going on. Other than that, I don't really see on this time frame. I don't really see anything that's looks great to take a trade off. Like I said, if this was better, yep, because that's off a measured move and you're getting into a resistance area. Same thing with this, and then this was probably a good trade. I missed that. So I don't see anything else in here. Here you have one leg up, two legs up, but I'm not really inclined to. Again, like I said, short this into the EMA, and you can see why. It hits the EMA, it bounces. This is where I would place my stop had I entered here. Stops you out, and then comes back down and goes right where you thought, and that's very frustrating. And that's, in my younger years, that happened quite a bit to me. But I have learned over time, just don't do that. Don't trade into the EMA. Because even if you've got the direction right, you may have the timing wrong. So I'm going to pause it here. This is 18 minutes. And I'll come back if, you know, something develops, if I'm looking to take a trade or if there's more interesting price action. So that's all I got for right now. I'll talk to you later. All right, let's just take a quick look here, what's going on. So I think last time I gave you an update, I think prices were like in this area here. And like I was saying, this may be just a break for this larger downtrend, and we can see that once we got up, you could on a very macro kind of picture for the day, we could look at this as like all one move down. Here's a leg up. Here's your measured move. And once it hits that measured move area, no, you could is it draw the measured move? Is it here? And then we start the measured move here or whatever. But again, so we have two big legs up, and now we've rushed back down below the EMA, and so what we might be looking for here is prices to come back down now. We'll see. But that's, this low here before the day is over may very likely, I'd say very likely, but there's a decent possibility that this low will get retested. And this whole, you know, bullish move up was just two legs that are breaking this bigger downtrend. Um, and because the bias for the day is still very bearish, and if we want to use our little fib tool here to see what's going on. right? We got back up into the 50% retracement area, so very common area where for prices to retrace to before they start going in the original direction. Um, so that's about all I have for you right now. I will be looking for to get a short here on this move down. So I will update you when um, anything significant comes up or whatever. So talk to you later. Hey everybody, looking for possible. We have this down move, kind of went sideways here into this former resistance, turned it into support area. We have a leg up, second leg up, and I was looking for a lower high here. Looks like we're not going to get it. Looks like it's just going to um, move down here now, and now we're getting close to the EMA. So what I was hoping is I was hoping this bar here would pop up here and give us a lower high to get in on, giving us confirmation that this move up was at least temporarily over, and we would probably test this EMA. Um, these lines are 2 points, but there would be 1. So we're now getting pretty close to the EMA. So I don't really like trading into that. So I'm going to stop it here, and I'll bring you back in if anything else interesting happens. Hey everybody, Ace of Trades back. I just thought I'd give you an update here because I have a strange thing that happens sometimes. It didn't happen here on this chart, but my chart will crash, and so I know if this, like, sometimes the chart will like kind of refresh on its own, and I know if it does that, it's gonna crash, which means I usually what happens is I lose like an hour of the chart. It looks like one giant bar. It'll go from like 1 o'clock, it'll show like 12:50 or something, and then next thing you know, like the very next thing will be like 2 o'clock. So this whole hour from here to here will be lost, and then some point later, like tomorrow, or maybe sometimes it's the next day when the data updates, um, it'll be back. But I wanted to make this because if the chart crashes, then you won't be able to see what I'm talking about here. So I haven't taken any trades since the last time. I think the last time the update, we had this downtrend and it just kind of went sideways here. I was looking for 2 legs back to get a retest, but it actually, in a really small fashion, it retested right here on this break and then one more time. And just what happened, I think, here is it found support at these highs, these previous highs. So that's what prices will come back often to areas that were previous resistance or previous support, and it'll test that, and it found that resistance turned into support, and so it took off from there. And from there I measured two legs there and pasted it there, and once it hit this measured move and also at these highs, these previous highs, tried to sell off a little bit, but it couldn't. Came down here, formed this bar. That's not really because it's not really something I want to buy, because what you are typically expecting is that when prices make new extremes, that it will try to roll over and go the other way. So not necessarily after we had this plunge below the EMA, because there's no discernible trend here that I'm looking to get in on for a new high. This leg has already made a new high. This is not something I want to buy, but it did find, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, so I can't rely on that. I can't buy that. So it does push up again, and then once it makes a new high from these previous highs, then we've been in a range here for like the last hour, basically. I was hoping to get into, let's see, so
this comes back, price comes back here, eventually test this measured move. One leg, two legs, but I didn't want to. You also kind of have like a range failed breakout here. I wanted this to close a little bit lower, not so close to the EMA. And you can see um, this, um, when you have price breaks out of a range, it typically will fail. Not always, but it will typically fail, and that's what I was looking for here on this. It moved down one leg, two legs, but we closed way up in here, way too close to this EMA, and you can see as price was running into the EMA, it was finding resistance, and my concern was that, potentially it could hit that and push back out again. So had this, made a little bar like this, that would have been perfect. Made a little bar like that right here. Definitely something I'd be interested in taking. But just at the areas where I'm looking for a trade, it's just not cooperating. The only thing I really liked today was that triple test I talked about earlier in the video. So I'm going to stop it here, and if my screen doesn't refresh or anything on me, I'll come back like after the market closes and just kind of summarize the day. And that'll be it for today. I kind of like this style of video that I'm doing today. Start out in the morning, talk about things a little bit, the structures, the price movements, and then just pause it and sit paused until something happens that's worth talking about, and then we can get kind of my thoughts for the whole day as encapsulated in like a half-hour video or something. Uh, and as things are playing out in real time, not necessarily um, just looking at a printed chart at the end of the day, and then just talking about it, because there's a ton of people that do that, and I don't think there's a whole lot of value in it. Um, Traders that I've talked to, what they'd like to see is they'd like to see somebody who can read a chart, that what their thoughts are as prices are printing during, in real time. So that's what I'm trying to do here with these videos. Um, and there'll be other stuff I do, but um, just kind of talk about what I'm seeing throughout the day. So I'll check back in at the end of the day for a couple minutes. All right, everybody, let's wrap it up for today. So ended up not getting anything. Um, Shortly after, I think I paused the video last time, we were like around here, maybe like, I don't know, here or something like that. And that's about the time I found this. You see this uptrend here. So once this broke out strongly and was headed towards the other side of this channel again, I started to look for an entry. Was looking for two legs down here. You can see my measurements, but this is all the further it came back. Unfortunately, that's just too close to the highs to get in there. You're looking for something to come back in here. Because what could happen is you could just tick higher here, and then it could like finish the second leg down to the EMA. So this just never came back close enough to the EMA, and just nothing you can do about that. And then so I had that, and so I would have been looking for, once I got that first leg and it started to pull back the second leg, I, ran that, put that up there. I would have been looking for, if I get a trade with a runner, I'd be looking for a target somewhere up in there. And usually, this is number one, it's near the end of the day. Number two, when I get a one very strong leg like that, where you have bars that are it's just a run of green bars in that creates a leg that you can clearly see. I will I'll look for, and then if you get the two legs back, that creates like this center of a pattern. You get, one leg up, two relatively similar legs of correction, and then maybe you get an entry like that down here. Um, I'd take that trade and then I would target for a runner on my runner portion of my trade. I'd run this up to the measured move, and I'd usually target for around 80%. And so we'd have been out on our runner right there, but it didn't come back. So it didn't come back to give me an entry that I was comfortable with. And so it's just now running here into the close. So if we zoom out on take a look at just the day overall. I'll just get rid of this thing because I'll go into printing my charts then after this. Just kind of look at the day. You can see we had quite a lot of volume today. I'm going to probably have to pull it down to the point where definitely will have to print my charts in an AM and a PM fashion today. So again, you can see that here's your overnight high, overnight low. We ended up finding this big downtrend. This is really like the only entry I liked. There's, areas where I would like to see uh, something set up, but like I said here earlier in the video, if this had finished better and not such a bullish doji, I'd look for an entry right there, and then I missed this then into this resistance area, and so we push down, and so you start drawing this, finding maybe there's an additional more shallow channel, and so we pushed up, made a second leg, sold off from there. Couldn't get by this area of former resistance that turned into support, and so prices just kind of bounced from there. Leg up, break, and then just kind of a not sure what I want to say, like not a nondescript fashion. Um, it eventually made this measured move and then started to try to sell off. Sometimes you'll get this break and it'll make a quick second leg, and sometimes kind of like we did here, get this break and it went right into a second leg up, and then here it does get, but before it actually gets to the measured move, it kind of goes sideways a little bit here and then pushes up and then tries to sell off and can't. And what's happening here is you don't know at the time, but there's a trend being created here. And so we hit that and went kind of sideways in a range. Again, I said if this had set up better and not so close into the EMA, I would have liked something there, would have liked something here. So price is just not being super friendly with setups. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, and sometimes you get a bunch of days together where they're not. So we just kind of happen to be in that sort of period right now. So I think that's probably it for today. I hope you found this of some value, and I will see you in the next one.